All right, let's solve a modern mystery that probably lives right there in your phone, the so-called bad texter. What is actually going on when they leave you on read? I promise you, it is not what you think.
Oh man, we've all been there, right? You send a message, you see those little check marks, maybe even the word read, and then just crickets. It can be so frustrating, a little confusing, and yeah, it can even make you kind of anxious. But what if we're looking at that silence all wrong? Okay, let's break this down. On the one hand, you have what we all tend to assume. They're lazy, they're not interested, or maybe they're just being rude. But look at the psychology behind it. It suggests something totally different is at play. They might actually be overwhelmed, super focused on something else, or just trying to stay in control of their own headspace. That gap between our assumption and their reality, that's what we're going to explore.
So first up, let's just acknowledge that feeling. Why does being left on read sting so much? It turns out it's not just you being overly sensitive. No way. There's a really powerful psychological reason it feels like such a personal knock.
See, our brains are basically running on ancient software. We evolved in small tribes where being connected to the group meant survival. If you got the silent treatment back then, it meant you were at risk of being pushed out. So now, when we get that digital silence, that same ancient part of our brain just freaks out and screams rejection, even when that's not the intention at all.
So, if it's not actually rejection, what is it? Well, the first major reason is something we can all relate to, a brain that is just completely overloaded.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got emails, texts, app alerts, news notifications. It is a constant digital storm. And for a lot of people, this isn't just background noise. It's genuine sensory overload. The brain literally hits its processing limit. And, just like a computer that's overheating, it either has to slow way down or shut down for a bit.
So how does a brain fight back against all that noise? Well, it uses this really fascinating strategy. Psychologists call it protective withdrawal. And yeah, it sounds pretty intense, but it's actually a totally logical defense mechanism.
This right here completely flips the script, doesn't it? That silence we take so personally is actually their shield. It's not a sword pointed at us. It's a defensive wall they're putting up to keep themselves from totally burning out. It's a shield, not a slight.
Okay, so it's not just about being overwhelmed. The second big reason for being a slow texter is about protecting something that is incredibly valuable and honestly pretty fragile these days: deep focus.
This quote just nails it. For anyone who needs to do creative work, solve tough problems, or even just think clearly for 5 minutes, every single notification is like a tiny wrecking ball to their train of thought. That silence is an empty space. It's a fortress they're building around their own mind.
And that mental state they're guarding so carefully? It's called deep processing mode. You might know it as being in the zone or in a flow state. It's where you do your absolute best work. And you just can't get there if your phone is buzzing every 2 minutes. For these so-called bad textures, protecting this mode is a top priority.
And here's exactly how that destructive cycle works. A notification pops up, and bam, that deep focus is just shattered. It's gone. So that silence you're experiencing, it's not them ignoring you. It's the sound of them trying to rebuild that mental fortress, brick by brick.
And that brings us to our third and final piece of the puzzle. This one is all about taking back control. It's about being intentional.
For some people, an incoming text feels like a demand, an order for their immediate attention. So by choosing when to reply, they aren't trying to control you, they're trying to maintain control over their own mental environment. They're choosing to get back to you when they actually have the headspace to give a real, thoughtful answer.
This comparison makes it crystal clear. On one side, you have reactive responding. It's impulsive, distracted, and honestly, it's where misunderstandings happen. But on the other side, you've got intentional responding. Thoughtful, focused, and clear. Really, it's a choice between speed and quality. They're choosing quality.
All right, let's tie all this together. We've just uncovered a completely different way to look at that pause, that digital silence.
It really all boils down to these 3 big ideas. The bad texter is very often just a person trying to escape sensory overload, protect their ability to think deeply, and maintain some control over their own mind. When you look at it that way, it's not a flaw. It's a survival strategy for our crazy digital world.
So if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The next time you're left on read, try to shift your perspective. It is probably not about a rejection of you, it's about a protection of their focus.
And that leaves us with one final pretty powerful question to think about. We've spent this whole time trying to understand other people, but now, let's turn it on ourselves. In this world that screams for instant replies, what are your digital boundaries? How are you protecting your own silent fortress? Something to really think about.